Welcome, creeps, to the first episode of the Serial Podcast. I didn't think about that before I started. Welcome. Hi, my name is Becky. I love talking about serial killers, and I love talking about cults and odd things that happen, conspiracy theories, all these kind of things, and I kind of get odd looks when I talk about it at work. Therefore, if I talk about it on here, in a room, on my own, it won't seem as weird. It definitely will seem as weird. So, we are going to kick off this series, which is going to be a 10-part series. I am hoping, fingers crossed, is going to be my top 10 all-time. Don't want to use the word favourite. I think that's definitely enforcing the stereotype of, well, a bit creepy. It's going to be a 10-part series of my top 10 all-time interesting cases, cults, serial killers, just generally odd people, I guess. We're going to have a countdown. So that's what we're going to start with, and hopefully I can grow this into something that's going to be great. I think that would be pretty awesome if we could. I do have an Instagram. The Instagram is serial_podcaster. We're also going to be putting these videos up on YouTube. All the links are going to be with the video when I inevitably plaster them everywhere to try and get everyone to listen, because I hope you guys are going to find these stories and cases as interesting as I do. So let's just kick things off, creeps, with number 10 on my top 10 list. And this story is about the Cecil Hotel. Alright, the Cecil Hotel, now named Stay on Main, doesn't really take away from the shitty things that happened there. Was built in 1924, originally for business travellers, tourists, anybody who kind of had any notable money. It was kind of desired that you stayed at this hotel. Quick background, it was going really well, did really well through the 1940s. However, after that, it did kind of see a decline in the hotel as it was situated near a little place called Skid Row. Any little shop of horror fans? That's what I thought anyway, seeing it. So, kind of with Skid Row, there was like 10,000, 15,000 homeless people that lived within like a 4-mile radius. And kind of by 1950s, it was known as kind of a hotel that basically homeless people slept in. Now, because of the area that it was in, there was deaths, suicides, violent happenings, crimes, thefts. It really did kind of pass that on to the hotel, even though it was kind of this hotel that took $1 million to make, and it boasted about its windows and how amazing they were. It really did kind of get the reputation, I think, of the situations that were happening around. First documented suicide at the hotel was 1931. Never fun talking about, but what happened, a guest died in his room after taking poison capsules. I believe he was called W.K. Norton. Like I said, that was the first kind of noted suicide, death, anything like that. Kind of, even though it was doing well in the 1940s, kind of through to the 50s when it inevitably got its bad reputation, during the time more suicides occurred. By the 60s, kind of people who were staying there, people who were in the surrounding area began to call the hotel the Suicide, which is insane. And I can't imagine, even though those times are completely different, I can't really imagine it was great for the people running the hotel. Like, hey, where do you work? Oh, I work at the Suicide. Like, oh, gosh. Now, in addition to those suicides, Kind of the history of the hotel includes violence, murders, serial killers staying here. Also kind of became a hotel in which if you were to have an affair, you would go to the Cecil. If you were on drugs, kind of you needed that kind of space, you'd go to the Cecil. If you wanted to hire a lady of the night, you would take her to the Cecil. It definitely wasn't being used for the intention that it was originally built for. So I'm going to get into the murders, I'm going to get into the suicides, any kind of odd thing happened there, I'm going to get into that. But I think one of the most notable ones is something that I only found out not so long ago, kind of relates to something else, which I think is really cool. I don't mean cool as in, oh my god, that's awesome, I just mean interesting. 1947, I believe, a woman named Elizabeth Short. Now, any kind of fans of horror, cults, serial killers, anything like that, unsolved cases, will know Elizabeth Short as the Black Dahlia. Now, she had, apparently, I'm not saying this is fact, had been seen drinking at the hotel days before her murder happened. Now, that's crazy. Like, this hotel, when you hear all the other things that happened there, you're gonna be like, well, shit, how is this still running? The last place this woman was seen before she was murdered, and then became one of the most kind of like whodunits. That's insane to me. Let's kick off with some of the murders, some unsolved murders. People have no idea how they happened. Alright, in 1964, again, I'm going to apologise. I wrote all this stuff down. The dates might not be correct. If they're not correct, please let me know. Would love to be able to alter them. So yeah, in 1964, a woman was found in her hotel room. I'm not gonna sugarcoat these things. These things happen. She was raped, stabbed, beaten. Her room was completely ransacked. She was a retired telephone operator who went by the name Pigeon Goldie Osgood, which is a pretty dope name, have to say. And the reason she got that name was because she was like a long-term resident at the hotel, and she would go out and feed the birds, talk to the pigeons, become buds, get a squad. Shouldn't be making jokes like this. However, no, that's how she got her name, and she was found in her room. There was somebody who was charged with a murder, but then he was cleared. She is one of the unknown kind of unsolved murders at the hotel, and this was 1964. Now, when I talk about these things, I've wrote them all down in terms of which ones I was interested in. They're probably not all going to be in date order, but I just wanted to let you guys know about the different things that happened at the hotel. Now, in 1980, this one I find really I find all of it interesting, but this one is crazy. So, anybody who likes horrors, again, going back to serial killers, in the 1980s, the hotel, again, this isn't fact, it is kind of speculated, was rumoured to be a residence of the serial killer Richard Ramirez, I think is how you pronounce it. Anyone who else knows him potentially as the Night Stalker. He was kind of hanging out around Skid Row. Apparently a lot of people in the hotel spoke to him, saw him, stayed at the hotel for a few weeks, and again it's speculated he potentially was committing murders whilst he was staying at the hotel. Another serial killer, kind of keeping on the track with this one happened in 1991. He was considered kind of a Night Stalker copycat. He was called Jack Unter... Not going to try and embarrass myself. He's Austrian. He stayed at the hotel in 1991. He again speculated strangled and killed at least 3 sex workers, which he was convicted for back in Austria. He did hang himself shortly after this conviction. I don't want to kind of talk about that one anymore. Not going to make any more comments on that one. But yeah, so he was taken back to Austria when it was kind of found that he did it, and then hung himself shortly after. Next up is George Gianni. He was a 65-year-old. This is one of the strangest things, and admittedly, when I first saw, I kind of laughed about it, but then I kind of realised probably shouldn't be laughing about this. So, it was 1962, there was a woman who was arguing with her husband on the 9th floor of the hotel. After her husband left, she wrote a suicide note and she jumped from the window in the hotel on the 9th floor. Now, this is where it gets kind of a little bit weird. So, George Gianni was walking down the street, minding his own goddamn business, and she fell on him. She had jumped through the window, trying to commit suicide, and she just wiped them both out. They both died instantly. When the police got to the crime scene, they thought it was a double suicide. He still had his hands in his pocket, and that's so sad for me because I just imagine this old granddad walking down the road, minding his own business, and then some woman just lands on him and kills him instantly. So yeah, no, then they figured it out. It was a case of they found the suicide note in the hotel. It was an accidental death. Just, my heart just bleeds. I just couldn't imagine. Now, next one, again, probably isn't going to be very nice. I do apologise. I feel like I should put out some kind of warning of a baby death. 1944, the youngest kind of victim from the hotel, 19-year-old, was staying at the hotel and she didn't know she was pregnant. She woke up in the middle of the night with stomach pains. She was next to a kind of a partner. I don't know if they were married. He was 38 years old. She didn't want to wake him. She went to the bathroom, delivered the baby, and then threw the baby out the window. And yeah, that's not a fun one. She tried to plead insanity, saying that, he was dead, I didn't want to wake him up and stuff, which to me, that's not insane. You were just an outright murderer. No, thank you. Now, gonna jump back to the beginning. Kind of the first guest that was found by the poison capsules, sorry. He was 46, found dead in his room. Although it was the first suicide that was in kind of the history books as, it was in history of the hotel, this is what happened. The next year, 25-year-old, I think he's called Benjamin Deutsch, found by a hotel worker. He had shot himself in the head. Then 1934, former Army Medical Corps was found with his throat slashed. He had written quite a few suicide notes and they all found them in the room. I'm just trying to reel these off. Some of them really aren't pleasant. 1937, the body of Grace E. Margot, I think she was called, discovered. She was wrapped in telephone wires after she jumped from the 9th floor window. Again, we're going back to the 9th floor. Something in that happened with the baby, happened with this woman. A year later, the body of a 35-year-old US Marine was found on the skylight of a nearby building. Also jumped through his room. 1939, Navy officer was found dead after taking poison. That was a really quick concession of deaths that happened that really did kickstart it. I think the last one that I'm going to speak about, it's a really odd one because it happened really recently. So, 2013, 21-year-old college student was found dead and naked in a water tank on the rooftop of the hotel. Now, I talk about this one quite a lot because I think it's just insane. I think the first time that I ever really kind of heard about it, I was watching a Shane Dawson unsolved kind of murder video. Basically, this woman who was travelling, she stayed at the hotel, the CCTV footage of her, she gets in to the lift, she presses all the buttons, she kind of hides herself, kind of presses herself against the wall, jumps out of the lift, looks both ways, gets back in, kind of repeats that. And that was the last known footage of this woman. The only reason that she was found in the water tank is because people staying at the hotel were complaining that the water that they were showering in was disgusting. They were trying to get water and it was all black and it was brown and it was stunk. And they obviously had gone up to check the water tank. And when I say that the hole of the water tank to get into it is ridiculously small, not something you could have climbed into and put yourself there, is ridiculous. I mean, go Google it, go YouTube it. There is no doubt kind of in my mind, and this is all personal opinion, that this woman was, like, she was murdered. And it's sad. And the sad thing is that the coroner, when they found her, listed the death as accidental drowning. But obviously, seeing from the CCTV footage, something so suspicious about that could not have been like an accidental drowning. How do you accidentally drown in a water tank that's not made for humans to get inside and out? Now, like I said, her behaviour was really kind of crazy and sporadic. When you see the CCTV footage of her, she hides in the corner, appears to be talking to somebody at one point. The doors don't close. She exits the elevator and doesn't reappear. There's been kind of some theories in which she was being chased by a serial killer or she was having a bipolar episode, but they never genuinely found out what happened to her. And I think that was in 2013. The hotel opened in 1924. So that's a long ass time of just really shitty things happening, and the hotel is still going. Now, the hotel itself has been kind of featured in music videos. It's been the inspiration of certain things. So American Horror Story, any American Horror Story fans, the hotel that is based off, very loosely, I don't want to just go outright and say yes, it was definitely based off that. No, it wasn't. It was used as kind of like a, what's the term, like an inspiration for American Horror Story. 1987, U2 did like a live concert on the rooftop of a building, and you can actually see the hotel. It was almost filmed as like a backdrop. And it was released for a music video for the song Where the Streets Have No Name. Like I mentioned, also the inspiration of Horror Story Hotel. It's also featured in the background of Blink 182's video The Rock Show. They can be kind of seen throwing money down, and it's kind of next to the Cecil Hotel. Now, I think I am going to wrap it up there, because that was a lot of murder, there was a lot of suicide to talk about. I love talking about this stuff, and I hope that you guys can listen and enjoy, and hopefully it wasn't the worst first episode of something that you've listened to before. I think it'd be pretty dope if you guys did like it. If there is anything you guys think super interesting and you want me to talk about, please comment below, message me on Instagram, talk to me about these things, because I love having chats about them as well. So, if you did enjoy it, please give it a huge thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell notification, leave a nice comment below, because I'm a sensitive little being whose feelings get hurt. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed the first episode of Serial Podcaster. Next week's episode is going to be all about cults. Every single one of them. No, I'm joking. Things like the Manson family. I've been watching, listening, reading a lot about that. Dying to talk about it. So yeah, next week, am I giving them numbers? Yes. I'm going to go number 9. Is the Manson family. So yeah, thank you for tuning in to my first episode, and I will see you creeps next week.